Sounds Jatra, sounds Tamisha. All right, we're just waiting for participants to come in. We'll give it like around 5 minutes and then we'll just start the webinar.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Right, 4 more minutes.
Can they all see our faces on the video? Because I can't see like everyone else's videos.
I think they can see us, yes.
Okay. Can you see me? Is my video like the other round? Sorry?
Yeah, it's the other way around. So I think you need to change it to face you. Okay, that's good. That's better.
Alice, if you see me sort of whispering that side, it's because I've got a colleague here with me from HR, yeah? If there's any like recruitment questions, any technical questions, you can ask.
Oh, wow. You're so well prepared.
Yeah.
I have a good support system.
I'm in an empty room in the building. Oh my god. Should have used my laptop instead. It's upstairs. Sorry, guys.
You're using your phone, Abir?
I am.
You've got to hold up your hand like that, you know?
And my phone has got 37% left. I don't know I don't know how I'm going to do this.
If you feel like you have to leave, just like give me a heads up. It's completely fine.
I think it should be fine if I go off earphones. Just charge it.
Yeah, I think it should be fine.
Yeah.
With the job hashtag. There's a hashtag there. I love it.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll start in 1 minute. Okay. I think we can start now. Because it's okay, it's already 10:05. All right, so good morning to the people in Malaysia and good evening to the people in the States. Welcome to today's webinar, Women Leaders of Today and Tomorrow. My name is Alice. A little background about myself. I'm currently pursuing my master's in finance here in the Kelley School of Business in Indiana University. And like any other woman out there who's going into corporate or fashion industry, you know, we all face the same adversity and challenges, that it's a male-dominated industry. industry, right? And so it's really refreshing and really inspiring to have a panel of successful women and inspiring women leaders today to give us their advice and insights on how to overcome this issue so that we can, be just as successful as them. All right, before that, if any of you, joining this webinar have any questions, you can drop it in the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. The webinar will also be recorded and will be posted on Seats Job Fair's Facebook page and the event page. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to all of our three amazing speakers. I'll start with Ms. Abir Abdul Rahim. Ms. Abir is a first-class honors degree holder in Bachelor of Science in Actual Science from Swansea University, Wales. Abir also owns a master's degree in Actual Management from Cass Business School, which he was one of the 12 recipients for King's Scholarship Award, the most prestigious scholarship in the country for a master's. Abir is a full-time aspiring actuary in the insurance industry since back in Malaysia, which he now is attached to Great Eastern Takaful Berhad, a leading Takaful operator in the country, managing the actual pricing of Takaful products sold via the company's biggest business portfolio. She is also heavily involved in the industry's development, actively participating in the industry's task forces, representing the company. Since her student days in the UK, Abir has always been passionate in giving back to the society. On that aim, Abir co-founded Asia Women's Circle, AWC, that drives Lean in Malaysia, which is a woman-led non-profit organization inspired by Sheryl Sandberg's #LeanIn movement, which harnesses the power of leadership and community to embolden women to achieve their full potential by educating, enabling, and empowering them to define their own success. So the platform challenges the norm and raises the status of women in the society for an equal world. Under her leadership, the platform, which was established back in 2015, has now gained a membership of more than 5,000 members, and today is recognized as a voice of credibility for women issues in Malaysia by the government. In January 2016, Abir was named Regional Leader of LeanIn.org by Sheryl Sandberg and has spoken on women empowerment agenda on panels all across the world, such as California, Thailand, and Turkey. So welcome, Ms. Abir. It's a pleasure to have you. Do you have anything to add to that description just now?
Well, that was a mouthful. But first of all, thank you to the organizer for including me in this webinar. And hi, everyone. I think it's nighttime in the US, is it?
Yes, it's nighttime. It's 10 p.m.
Okay.
I'm not sure about New York. Is it the same time?
Yep, it's the same time.
Yeah, okay, same time as Indiana.
Yeah, so I hope I'm able to address any queries that you have with regard to the workforce and especially the role of women in the society today.
All right, great. Thank you so much. Our second speaker is Miss Amira Junus. So, hi, Miss Ili. So, Ili started her career in Shell 10 years ago and has experienced various roles from trading and supply to real estate, network planning and strategy, including an assignment in Hong Kong. So, in 2016, she returned to Malaysia to lead the non-fuels retail team to increase the number of select stations, to roll out the innovative first food oasis format in fuel station, and to upgrade selects in partnership with Costa. She is now a district manager in Malaysia, covering 140 stations in Kuala Lumpur and Negeri Sembilan. Ili graduated from the University of Melbourne with Bachelor of Commerce and Masters in Property and Construction. She's happily married, is a mother of 3 children, and loves traveling and spending time with her kids doing yoga. Hi, Miss Ili. So how are you today? Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
All right. Is there anything that you would like to add before we start the discussion?
No, I think you've got it all.
Okay, great. And then our third speaker for today is Anisah Farid. So Anisah is a design intern for Women's Wear Runway and Ready to Wear collection in Marc Jacobs in New York. Her day-to-day role is to assist senior designers in the design development and process of building a complete collection. Daily duties include designing samples, researching trends, fabric colors, mood, to liaising with the factories in New York garment district for production. So hi, Anisah. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you. The honor is mine, and just to be in conversation with these two amazing women. Wow, this is my first time. So
all three of you are really amazing, inspiring women leaders, and I can't wait to start the discussion.
Yeah.
All right, let's see if we have our first question from the audience.
See the audience.
Why don't we start with, the background and the status quo for women in leadership roles right now. We can start with Abir, and then we can just, rotate to Edie and then Anisah.
Okay. Just to give a background on the scene currently, I think Ili could concur, and do correct me if I'm wrong. Having done Lean in Malaysia for the past 5 years really exposed me to how society see us as a woman, and I didn't realize that there are a lot of expectations, especially to those who are actually working mothers. There are a lot of roles that we are being subjected in, and I think when I first started living in Malaysia, I just came back from my master's in the UK, having spent time abroad for 4 years. I was raised to be a very ambitious person, right? Despite me being a girl and stuff like that. But I guess in university or even during our schooling years, we were never exposed to the idea that there will be such issues happening in the workforce, such as, gender pay gap, sexual harassments, and yada, 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 yada. And I actually faced that personally when I came back and into my 2 years of working in the industry. The fact that a lot of things are expected of a woman, and I was at that age where, okay, I'm 30 this year. Still not married, but I guess it happens to a lot of younger women who just finished their universities and wanted to start something with their career, but then you're at that age where the society either tells you that you can climb the corporate ladder, or any sort of career ladder, or you sort of start a family. So most of my girlfriends and I, we were at the crossroads of what is right and what is okay, what is the definition of success and happiness. So I was at that crossroad, that time that was 5 years ago, and I looked around for the platform to a support system to talk about these issues out loud. I was going around questioning about my role as an individual, not just as a woman. How do I make the best out of my own dreams? How do I give the best and contribute the best to the society? And that was when we decided to come together, after most of my founding members and I read the book Lean In, written by Sheryl Sandberg and her co-founders, called Women, Work and the Will to Lead. We decided to come together and start this platform to address these kind of issues that are happening to women today, in this day and age. And you would be surprised that once that the kind of statistics that we're seeing on the ground right now, for example, even before I started living in Malaysia, I was not aware of all the statistics whereby that time 5 years ago, we had 5% of CEOs in public listed companies who are women, 5%. And then you have on the ground public universities participation of whereby female make up 70% of the participation at public unis, but only 54% of them enter the workforce. And a lot more issues that are very concerning and needed to be addressed, because oh my god, so sorry, my phone just fell. So I was saying, yeah, so a lot more pressing issues that are happening on the ground and also in the workforce that have often been swept aside because it was never a main agenda to address, when it comes to diversity and inclusivity and women's support system, because women are expected to be working mothers. At the same time, they are supposed to be perfect as mothers at home. And these are the kind of issues that often would affect the way a girl sees her career. And a lot of times, that's why you're seeing a lot more women dropping out of the workforce, because they can't carry that role that society is expecting them to do. When Lean Malaysia is just a platform that educates, enables, and empowers women to harness their fullest potential for an equal world. So we have moved away from just including women, but we also started to include men in our conversation. And this kind of statistics, you might see that, okay, so you might see a lot more women today are leading organizations. So for example, recently Datuk Yasmin Mahmud, the then CEO of MDEC, is now the CEO of Post Malaysia. And you're starting to see the, Bank Negara Malaysia governor is a woman. A lot more organizations and public and government agencies are currently being led by women. This is because a lot more awareness have been created, and a lot more policies are already set in place, and you are starting to see initiatives being done to have 50% of women on board. And then, child marriage issues, the minimum age has increased to 18 across the nation, which is good. But a lot more things needs to be done, because by the end of the day, you can't change the mindset of the entire society. You can change the mindset of just a small portion of the society, but a lot more things are currently happening on the ground that needs to be addressed. So that's the real world that we're currently facing. You need to go in depth instead of just what you see on social media. You need to go deeper than that and understand the issue of why women are dropping out of the workforce, why women are not making it to the top, why are you still seeing less than 50%? Because in Malaysia, we make up 50-50, right, the population in the country and across the world, 50% women, 50% men. But why are we still seeing statistics that are less than 50%? So that's the background of the women agenda in the country.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you that a lot needs to be done. So, yeah, anything else? Ili, do you want to?
Yeah, so for me, based on my personal experience, Abir is absolutely correct that sometimes these sort of things are not discussed openly. It still happens within our society. It's not what you see on the surface of the social media. It's everything that you have to ask, the questions that goes on underneath, right? So the status quo for me in leadership in Malaysia is the often misconceptions of women at the workforce. So because I'm a mother, I've experienced it, that people often think that you can either be a good mother or a good employee. It's not and, yeah? So I always struggle with that. And I've always been taught to sort of push the envelope. And I'm lucky to be in Shell, where they kind of test that and they ask difficult questions, right? How do you then be a good mother and a good employee? So that's something I would like to be able to get women to sort of just talk it out, be able to discuss the issues. What are the issues that you are facing? But I do think that a lot more advocacy from women supporting other women is needed. Yeah, within your own company, you can start with that. You can also do that at uni. You can do that also at work and with family, because it's changing mindset. It's not going to be overnight, but you've got to start in small steps. So, yeah.
Right. So is there like any organization or support group for women in Shell right now?
There is. We have something called SWAN, Shell Women's Action Network, and it's a very, very strong support women. It's also, funnily enough, some of the members are men. Yeah? So they actually encourage that because they also want to listen. These are more the open-minded men. So there's continuous catch-ups, there's mentoring circles, and that's something that I really look forward to. And I think that's one of the key success factors of me surviving in career in oil and gas.
Right. Okay, that's great. Anisah, do you have anything to add to this question?
Wow, that was a lot and great things that everyone pointed out. Just personally, from my point of view, being in New York, it's a multiracial country, and I think Malaysia is very much too. But I also have to address that not only I am being labeled as a woman, but I do have the pressure of being a Muslim woman, and not only that, being a woman of color in an industry that is dominated by men. But the things that on the really ground surface level that I personally go through is they think that I do not have the mental or physical capacity to kind of endure long hours or do really, really tough work. But it's like, honestly, for me, because I really give everything to myself, like I give everything I have, and whenever I'm given a task, and just perform it in the best possible way. But because I know that one day someone wants the job that I did in the future, and I hope that me, by showing a good like work ethics and be proactive in what I do, be really enthusiastic, hopefully they'll consider to give that opportunity to another Muslim woman of color, I guess. But yeah, I just want people to know that there are people right now breaking the status quo for you. So we have to keep on sharing the message and say that, opportunities are being built. There are women working and hard possible, like Ili and Abir. We are sharing that message, and hopefully everyone will be more empowered to grab these opportunities for themselves. But yeah, it is a slow process, but it's definitely, we are on that start of that whole big change, obviously, and we need everyone to come together to address the problem.
We also have a question from the audience for Anisah.
Okay.
So, what is it like to work as a minority woman in America?
Oh wow, yes. To be honest, I was in the airplane flying down, and I think even when I was in the airplane, I was already faced with racial discrimination, and it really frightened me even more. I thought to myself, tomorrow I want to book my flight back to London. This feels so weird. And the first month, I was really overwhelmed with people just labeling me again and again that, oh, what is a Muslim woman doing in the industry? And I think that sort of no one has ever held a position before. So just having those stares, and I was really, really, I never labeled myself as a minority, let's say, because in Malaysia, we are the majority. But honestly, I met, just a personal experience, I met a girl and I told her that I met a girl on the street and she asked me how I tie my turban, and she asked me what I did. And she was doing nursing at the time, and she asked me, oh, what do you do actually? I said, oh, I'm a fashion intern at Marc. She said, wow, like she almost like, I never knew someone like me, when she was referring to me, meaning she's a minority because she was black and she was a Muslim, she just never knew that those kind of positions are open to them. But personally, I am rebellious at heart. Being as an individual creative, my work shows. It's all about my work. But it is tough. Like, I had to get used to it. I had to toughen myself up, and that only comes when you're being called out a lot. Day by day, as I'm being called, I'm more proud of it. Like, yes, I am a Muslim woman in Marc. What do you want to say about that? And if you have a problem, I want to talk to you about it. I want to change your mind about what you think that Muslim women can and cannot do. But it was an experience. But today, I really want every person who feels they're small and there's no opportunities for them, I want to inspire and empower them that they can be successful in whatever they put their heart into. But yeah, just showing a good example and set that example for them is tough.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. What about Abir and Ili? Like, what are the difficulties that have you faced, or in the corporate world especially?
So when I first started, I started when I was 25 in Shell as a graduate, and at that time, it's an oil and gas company, male dominated, all engineers, and these people have been in the business for 20 to 30 years, and I come in as a newbie, like trying to change things up. So passing comments in meetings, I've experienced things like, just because you wear a skirt, you can get that role, for example, which I found at that time so insulting. And I remember thinking to myself, what am I going to do? Am I going to be brave? Am I going to call it out? And I did. At that time, I actually went up to my senior and said, you know what? I find that really offensive. But can we talk it out? As Anisah said, it's about talking it out, understanding why they feel that way. But by right, usually humans are just humans. Sometimes their passing comments happens, but they don't really mean it, right? So when we did discuss it, and it was an agenda on something formally to be discussed, which I found very encouraging of my senior to do. Actual fact, they didn't mean it, but it's just the way that they're being brought up. It's just a passing comment. So, I mean, that was cleared out then. So those are the sort of challenges I've had to face. especially when I was new in the industry. I was a woman and I was a mother. I was a young mother, so I had my first child when I was 25. And those are the type of things that, oh, don't you have to go home and take care of your baby? And I said, yeah, but I can still work, right? I can still work from home, and that's what's the flexibility that Shell gives me. And I'm very, very lucky to have that.
So what do you think needs to be done, especially, of that culture of calling out, that, oh, women can only do a certain thing and, cannot do everything?
Yeah. So I think that's a good question. I think it's about just having the courage to speak up your mind. Speak your mind with empathy, because these people also have been raised a certain way, or whoever thinks that way. So you must understand their position, why they say this sort of things. And I think it's also important that you get people, I think 60 or 70% of the workforce are actually supportive of women in network. It's just that they don't talk about it. Women in having careers, etc. So when you get you rally people up, men, women, old or new, you kind of tell them, it can be done, and you show it by example. As I said, I had my first child when I was 25. I was just starting out my career, but I made it clear to them that was the priority. The priority was my baby at that time. So that was number one. Only then it was my career, and it was very well respected because I kind of said it out loud to my team members, and they were very, very respectful of that.
And so, Abir, is the same culture, like, what about in your company? Are they open about, telling them that, we want to prioritize family first as a woman?
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm moving around much. I'm trying to put my phone in a very static position. Oh my god. Okay, so anyways, going back to your question earlier, the kind if I may go back to the question that was given to Evie, the kind of challenges that we face as women when I enter the workforce, it's those kind of, like I mentioned earlier, those kind of if especially because I started off with this at this company that is very traditional. It's a local house, it's not a foreign company yet, so whereby the idea of a woman wanting to have a different kind of lifestyle is still quite foreign. So especially if someone yang pakai tudung, someone who's like, someone who looks like so perempuan Melayu terakhir and all that, so they straight away have this stereotypical template that they were putting me in. So I entered the workforce at 24. I was like, okay, I'm going to be a CEO by 40 and all that. And then suddenly they kept on asking me these questions that really bothered me. When are you going to get married? Do you have a boyfriend? You need to have like 2 kids by 28 and things like that. But I guess different people have got different kind of desires in life, these different kind of goals and ambitions in life. And if I were given that kind of questions almost every day, how was I supposed to focus on my career? And how was I supposed to really strategize on climbing my career ladder if I am being bogged down by these questions almost every day? So those are it's not just hitting women, but it's also hitting men, especially those in their 20s now. But it's more on women, and as I started seeing around, women who are working just around. Okay, am I back?
Yes.
Okay, so so going back, so they struggle to take care of the family, and they struggle to really deliver at work. And I'm sure Evie is able to relate to that. And because I wanted to see around for examples and role models of women who have done it all and who are able to do everything. And I was not seeing as many examples as I wanted to. And in fact, I empathize with them because they wanted, like, especially the newlyweds who've got like their first newborns and all that. Like the kind of stories I hear is that is that they miss their children, and they want to be with their children and all that. And it sort of like made me question, if I were to get married someday, how am I supposed to make it possible to be both, right, Ili? Right, to be a successful career woman, at the same time to be a successful soccer mom. And then I look further into it, having done in Malaysia for the past 5 years, made me realize is that a lot of organizations and companies, a lot of buildings are not equipped with facilities that are mother friendly, that are, they don't have daycare centers at their buildings. They don't have friendly work-life policies that would enable women to carry out those kind of roles. And I decided to, take action on it, and via Lean in Malaysia, because I want to build a world whereby all women, and not just women but also men, are able to wear those hats, wear the head of a mother, the head of a father, but at the same time the head of like the best employee in the company. And with Lean in Malaysia, we have all those kind of discussions. How can the corporate sector, how can the workforce move forward to be friendly and to enable both men and women to be the best versions of themselves without giving up something in life. And those are the kind of challenges that often hit women, especially when they start working. And some of my friends actually decided to resign from their jobs, because when I asked them, why would you want to resign from your job? You are chartered accountants, you are qualified something, and they said because their nature of work won't allow them to give 100% of their role as a wife at home. And they even said their husband really expect them to be at home and prepare dinner for them. And I think success and happiness are subjective. It's up to you if you're able to take a break or like leave the workforce. As long as your family and your husband is able to support you, that's fine. But the kind of messages that you are giving out to the other girls out there who don't really come from, I think because everyone has come from a different family backgrounds. But if they start saying this kind of things on social media, thinking that, hey, the idea is to get married to someone rich so that I can not work, is the kind of message that is completely wrong, because you're not making the full use of your skill sets by the end of the day. And what if something happens to your spouse? You would need to fend for yourself and your children. So these kind of conversations are what we are encouraging to happen amongst girls, so that they are aware by the end of the day, their decisions in life is basically completely up to them, without being subjected by what they see on social media, or by not being subjected by the society. So these are the kind of challenges that are real, and it's happening on the ground. That's why you're seeing a lot more women, a lot more younger girls decide to not focus on their career ladders, on their career, because they feel that there are easy way out in life. And I think by the end of the day, corporate work, the corporate life is not easy. I've recently got someone who's working under me who wants to resign because of all the stress and all that. But it's the kind of thing that really make me think that what are we preparing our younger girls and younger generation when it comes to the workforce? So these are the kind of challenges. It's not just about this pressure at work, but also pressure from the society.
Right. So with that, because based on my experience when I worked in Australia in a bank, they had this work from home Fridays, right? So it's like a thing in Australia where Fridays are a day where you spend time with family. So fathers can be fathers and mothers can be mothers. So do you think work from home Fridays will be accepted in Malaysia, like especially in the corporate world, if it were to be suggested?
So these policies have started being implemented by companies like Telecom, PwC, CIMB, but not the biggest section of the sector, because a lot of companies still think of their business from the FaceTime value. That means you got to come to work, and then that's how I know that you actually are contributing and doing your job. But a lot more companies are slow at understanding that the future of the workplace is going to change. That means you will have by 2050, 50% of your workforce, of your employees, are going to be of the next generations, of the millennials. And the kind of things that millennials want are different. But you don't really see that this will happen overnight, because a lot more companies are still assessing the kind of cost benefit analysis, if they have like flexible working Fridays, will that generate profit back to their company? But so it's a lot. So these kind of policies are still being experimented, but it's a good sort of like sign that the industry is moving forward. I'm starting to see a lot more companies that are MNCs especially are implementing these policies, but not much of the local companies, because they still are sort of like archaic in the way that they run businesses. But I think these are the kind of policies that needs to be implemented if, let's say, you want to retain talent, number one, and if you want to attract talent, number two. People are looking for companies and organizations that are, that has got values that are aligned with their values. So, for example, a millennial wants to have a purpose in their work, right? And they sort of like want sort of some sort of independence and ownership. So how do companies have policies and have a workplace that cater to these needs? So that's why you're seeing a lot more retention that are weakening across companies and industries, because more millennials are starting like startups and starting their own businesses. So this kind of things needs to be, needs to be looked at with importance moving forward, because the future of work is going to change.
Right, I agree. All right, so we have a question for Eli. So gender inequality in the workplace, be it explicit discrimination or implicit bias against women, is a prominent issue today. How does it affect the dynamics between the different genders where you work? How do you respond to that?
How does it affect the what? Sorry, the dynamics?
How does it affect the dynamics between the different genders in the place you work?
Okay, so again, as I'm going back to that misconception that sometimes
Right.
men or general society has on women, right? And one of them that I do want to mention here is about the women are very emotional. So those sort of things, it's funny because I always tell them, and I always kind of like go back to people and say, look, women are emotional, but that can be used as an advantage, right? Because we can see into details, we can see into things. So sometimes, and I think it is widely encouraged in Shell, I think it's part of our policy also to have a balance called diversity and inclusion. And that's just not about women. It is about men, it is about different races, it is about different backgrounds, different upbringings also. And I think in Shell, which I'm very proud to be a part of, is this is an agenda on the table from the highest level of the directors of Shell. Yeah? And this is from the people who are in HQ in The Hague, and it comes down. Whilst it might be a bit slow coming down to Malaysia and Southeast Asian countries, but once the agenda is sort of put on the table as a priority, in chairman level, in the board of directors level, it kind of becomes, it's no longer like a taboo. It's common sense in Shell. So diversity and inclusion is important. So it does impact the team dynamics. And in fact, I think studies have shown that the more diverse backgrounds that you have more of an effective team, because you have different views, different opposing views, and different ways of looking at things. And it's not just one. And I think it is appreciated in Shell. So I hope that answers the question.
All right, yeah. So when you put a lot of different people together in one team, do you usually find like, there might be like conflicts arising from that? And so how do we like solve the issue of like different dynamics within a team?
So I'll give you an example. I run a team of about 7 employees, right? 7, and some of them are graduates. Some have been in the industry for about 20 years. One is a millennial, and there's different races also, Malay, Chinese, and Indian. There are definitely going to be conflicts, even if you have the same sort of people in the room. There's definitely going to be challenges when you work together as a team. But what's important, what's encouraged is that we transcend, right? We kind of go, okay, so let's go into solution mode. How do we then solve this problem together as a team? Yeah, so I think the key word is transcend above, except that there are always going to be differing and opposing views, and sort of work towards a solution to those views.
Right. Okay, so we have a question from the audience. Do you think policies aimed to promote gender equality should be driven by the government or the public sector? What do you think is the role of the Ministry of Women, Family and Community Development or other relevant ministries in creating inclusive working environments nationwide?
Who's that question for, Alice?
It's open
Me?
question, so anyone can jump in and answer that.
Well, I can start. Can you hear me clearly? Because I'm putting like my phone at a
Yes,
very.
I can hear you.
So I think women ministry has really transformed in the way that they're implementing this diversity and inclusion agenda and fighting for women agenda in the country. For starters, YB NIU has implemented a policy that every ministry should have a daycare center. They are doing their part in terms of the women agenda, empowering women, making sure women are retained in the workforce and all that. But from based on what I read and based on all of the speeches that I attended, that needs to be done and effectively done at public sector first before it's being a mandatory policy in the private sector. So a lot of things that are being implemented and budgeted, as you could read in the budget last year, how they allocated an amount for, I think a couple of millions for daycare centers and all that to be implemented, but it's not 100% fully implemented yet. So they are always starting these policies at public sector, but at the same time, you have to be realistic with your goals. You need to make sure that it's implemented effectively at public sector first before it's transcended to the private sector. But the private sector, you don't really have to always wait for the government to move the needle, to move the dial. You gotta, a lot of companies in the private sector are starting to take the actions on their own, just like the companies that I mentioned earlier, and just like Shell as well, whereby more and more companies are coming up with all these policies and support system because they know what would work for the women in the private sector. So, the women ministry is doing their part. It's just that it's not an overnight change. But I would wish that the government would put more focus as well in the women agenda, because even in the budget that they tabled last year, only 3 items were for women empowerment and women agenda. So you could see that, and those things are quite common policies that you see. But I would really want to see a sort of like a creative way, a creative strategy to champion the women agenda in the country. Just like what Ili mentioned, these things needs to be done from top down, because it's nice to see people talk about women issues. It's nice to see why politicians attend as panelists to talk about, okay, this needs to be done from women, blah blah. But there is very little political will because it's not at the top of the agenda. So if we enforce this from the CEO level and also really look at implementing these policies, then you are able to see the needle move. Because right now, even on the ground, you're seeing a gap in the initiatives done by the government. At one point, you are seeing the private sector are pushing for 30% on the board level. At another point, you're seeing the government are pushing for a minimum age for child marriage, right, across the country. What I'm trying to get at is that there is a gap in the initiatives that are currently being done in the country. So we need to actually bridge this gap in order for us to work as a society to move the dial. Because otherwise we are nearing the year 2020, and this, because I've been doing Lean in Malaysia for the past 5 years, and to be honest, I'm quite jaded by the talks. I like what the community wants is actually effective programs that could help them to walk the talk. So a lot more things can be done, but I also, hear YB NIU saying that it needs to be implemented realistically as well.
I see, yeah. That's really great insight. And so, okay, so we have other questions. So to Anisah, having worked in fashion industry in the UK and the US, how do you think the fashion industry in Malaysia is different?
Okay, so I have actually not had a lot of experience in the Malaysian fashion industry, but I do know a bit about it. I feel like, you know, there is a lot of judging. That's the truth, and that. Okay, let me just talk about UK and US. In UK and US industries, we really press on what our work, how do we define our work, and how well do we do it, and we really care about the professional things that you show in your garments or your ideas and how we put through it and how we research and develop an idea and how much of you putting into all the work that you're showing. And we really think about it in a professional point of view. But in Malaysia, I am not, like I said, I can't really do that comparison because I've never personally worked in Malaysia. But I guess I think Malaysia in the fashion it has a long way to go. Obviously, there's a lot of women who are leading that industry, and I see, and to mention a few, like maybe keep the Adila Long Day, and they have children. Just watching them being happy and using their children as a force of happiness and creating beautiful garments, but haven't reached at an international level is quite something that I want to press on, inshallah, when I come back to Malaysia and give back. But you know, in UK and US, it is a male-dominated industry, and because of that, they don't think about what women needs. But recently, I heard in Celine when Phoebe was the creative director, she actually opened daycare within the House of Celine, and I thought that was amazing. That's something I want to bring back. But it is different. I really can't really compare because I just know what's in the Malaysian industry. But hopefully, everything that I learned from UK and US, I want to bring and just give them, tell them that, you know, we have to really bring them. I really believe in what we have, like the songket, the batik, and the way we think about fashion. I feel that, you know, after colonization, we totally wiped out and we are not creative thinkers in the creative industry. And we think that, you know, for us, like, we always look at Paris and the Western industry and looking at the best. But honestly, East fashion, Southeast Asian art will one day it's just super, super interesting and stuff that the world has not seen yet. And when that time comes, I hope that, you know, we are a strong force and we come together as a very like inclusive, and because there are so many conversations here with a diverse woman and people of color and minorities saying that, you know, we bring different things to the table rather than we are serving only kind of the upper level consumers. But, you know, one day they realize that, you know, China will open up and Asia, the market is in Asia, and they realize that, you know, we got to look at the East now. But that's all I can say. I can't really say much. I apologize.
Oh, don't apologize. That's really great insight. So leading up to that question, what advice would you give to aspiring women out there seeking to rise to the challenge of leading their peers?
One thing that I would like to point out is that sometimes we think that we are not just on, you know, my level as just like an intern or just studying, that we are not good enough, and sometimes that we think that nobody else is relatable, but people lean in, like having these really strong communities, sharing this personal stories. Like, it's so amazing to see that we have that, and also that know that you know, it's about realizing that relationships are so important in your personal story. Although you kind of are the center of your professional story, but the truth is, like, the characters and the people that you meet from different walks of life has gone through a lot, and these different experiences, it widens your horizon and it makes you realize that these are the people who will influence you and give you impact. And I guess when I learn about different perspectives, like for example, I think when I was interning and I was also in school, I was also working at a Malaysian restaurant. And why I chose that was because fashion is all about giving an identity to a person. It's about empowering a person when they wear their clothes. But how do I do that? It's about knowing what people go through. So what do they need? What do they need? And so knowing that the characters that you meet throughout your life, just anyone, will be a big influence and an impact in your personal story. And also, like, you know, it will keep not only your life but career interesting. and also like, you know, you will keep learning new things and evolving, because sometimes like yeah, when you just don't talk and you don't share your stories, that's when we don't know what's happening on the inside. We don't know what's happening in that industry. And I think that fashion has I use it as a channel to kind of talk about different things, like what's going to happen in women in Syria, what's going on there, and it enables me to kind of like express that in my work. And when I talk about it, more people are more aware. And I think raising awareness is definitely something that, especially us women who have that bigger emotional capacity to feel these emotions, that we should really know that we carry so much responsibility in sharing, sharing the message across.
I'd like to also add on that, Alice. I
Yeah.
think essentially what Anisah and I and Abir are trying to say is the willingness to learn is important, right? And the willingness to adapt to different situations. So my career advice to anyone who would be aspiring women leaders or leaders in general is be willing to learn, be willing to make mistakes, but learn from those mistakes. And I think recognize and understand yourself, your sole purpose, understand what you are like and how you react to things and how you will approach things, and understand that it will be different from people. It will be different, and it will be sometimes it would be complementing, sometimes it would be conflicting. So I think once you know yourself, what you want, what your sole purpose is, having the willingness to learn from other people, learn from your peers, learn and also talk about it, I think that's one of the key success factors of aspiring women leader. And also, after you learn, you can then teach people, right? You can lead a team of women, and you can you can also expel your knowledge to them. So then they one day would like to probably become you.
Yeah. And
Yes, I agree with that.
if I may add as well, my advice to all women out there and all girls out there, do not make you being a girl or a woman hold you back from climbing that career ladder, or being the best person that you can, be the best version of yourself. Because a lot of times the misconception, I think going back to one of the questions earlier, is that does being a woman and, is being a woman a disadvantage at workplace? Yeah, we have different sort of, biological, in terms of how we lead. We're more empathetic, and that's the feminine side, and that's masculine side. But it doesn't mean that us being the feminine makes us a less leader than the other, because by the end of the day, it's what you bring to the table, and it's how you manage a team, and it's how you contribute to the company. It's your skill sets that sets you apart, whether you're a woman or a man, or whether you are of a different race or different ethnicity. You have to be the best version of yourself and try your best as a person. I think the recent New York politician, OIC, Octavia, did an article for Vogue, and there's a saying that she mentioned, I really like it, is that she is just trying her best as a person. Because a lot of times when we're faced with challenges, we always think that we are, not enough. But you should allow mistakes to happen to you, whether you're a man or a woman, and learn from that mistake. Because by the end of the day, it's growth that matters out of the mistake. You grow to become a better person. You grow from the new experiences and the new challenges, and that would help you to climb the career ladder that you want. So do not quit before you have to quit. Do not say no before you have to say no. Just try your best. Because by the end of the day, nothing is easy in life. There's no shortcut in life. You just got to give your best as a person. So you can pakai tudung ke, tak pakai tudung ke, whether you're a girl or a guy, pakai skirt ke, pakai baju kurung ke. It's what you bring to the table that matters. It's your substance. So
Exactly.
that's my advice.
It's also the results that you deliver, then everybody will shut up, right? So
correct.
Something that is not given you really, is that like freedom is something you take. Like it's like you don't wait for it. It'll happen to you, but you gotta step up and ask for it.
Yes,
Exactly. All right, in the essence of time, so I think we have room for one more question. So how do aspiring women leaders, want to probably join Lean In or join Shell or Marc Jacobs? So we'll just like open this question to everyone.
For Linen, you can, follow us on social media, and we have events coming up, and you can, our events are open to public. So just sign up for the events, and, we'll see you guys there. And I think it's a great platform to treat as a support system, because by the end of the day, you don't want to feel like you're the only one struggling. There are other people who are struggling as well, and you're not alone in the world. So just follow our social media.
Okay, great. What about Michelle?
So for Shell, my colleague here has just said, go to the website to understand what sort of things are available. But also, I think it's important for you to have some sort of self-realization. And if you think you're up for the job and you want to join Shell, you need to have certain behaviors and characteristics. And that is, obviously, as I said, it's not the willingness to learn, of course, excel, and other out of academic activities, yeah? So that's always, because it's not really just about how smart you are, it's about how you deal with people, how adaptable you are, and how you can work in a team together. So do check Shell out, because as a graduate, it's one of the best decisions I made in my life, because I was working in banking for my first 2 years of my career. Coming to Shell is a different world, because it's like coming to university again. You get to learn, you get to change roles every 4 or 5 years, and you get to sort of develop things that you're not so good at the beginning, and when they will look at your development plans, etc. So that's for Shell. I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Shall I add? I guess not just for Marc, because for the creative industry itself, but I would say stay strong with your identity, be proud of it, like really put it on, and know that the creative industry is all about diversity and you knowing about different issues that's happening and you responding to it well, and also build a really good portfolio. It's you're dealing with a lot of creatives out there who has inspiring ideas, but when you're honest about what you believe in, it does come through. And I use that tool as like why do I want to do fashions, because it's open opportunities. And so being honest with yourself, it does come through to the employers, and it's it will still be great.
All right. I think, that's really great insights from everyone. I'd like to thank you, Anisah, Abir, and Ili, for willing to spend your time to talk to us about women empowerment. It's been really inspiring. Thank you so much for all the insights. If it's possible, maybe you would like to share your social media accounts or maybe your LinkedIn name, so that our participants can follow you on your journey and,
Sure.
maybe Abir. Yeah, sure.
Thanks, Alice. Oh, mine is Abir Abdul Rahim. Someone just entered.
Okay.
Mine is Abir Abdul Rahim at gmail.com. Just follow me. It's my full name.
Okay. Ili?
Mine Instagram account is at Ili Amira, just as you spell my name there. And also you can find me on LinkedIn. If you have any questions that you couldn't have time to answer, I didn't have time to answer, or anyone else didn't have time to answer, I'm open to help, because do let me know any, if there's additional questions or queries you have.
And mine is pink durian. I think I would just like to add a second, because I think it's relatable. What pink durian means. Pink was, honestly, at that point when I created it, I want to relate to a lot of women. And I thought, I was a tomboy back in the day. I would be the last person people thought I would do fashion. But pink was something like I felt women, even though they're tomboy, they're emo, they're gothic, they would have something pink. It could be anything. It could be a pencil box, it could be a hair tie. And so that was relatable. And then durian was because, durian, some people like it, some people hate it, but you always exist, you just got to face it and you got to accept yourself. So yeah, it's pink durian because of that. But yeah,
I followed you already, Anisah.
Thank you. It's nice. Thank you for being such a great moderator. At least,
Yeah, at least.
Thank you so much, everyone. Okay, have a great day in Malaysia and in New York.
Thank you.
All right, I hope we stay in touch.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.